All right, hello and welcome to the Labstep Way Part 2. So this is our second webinar of the Labstepping Stones webinar series that is held monthly. So to start with a bit of housekeeping, you might have noticed that cameras and microphones have been disabled and only the chat will work. So you can use the chat to ask questions. We have Eloise today, our customer success manager. She will do her best to answer all of your questions. We'll also leave 5 to 10 minutes at the end for a short Q&A. I must remind you as well, please be mindful and respectful of others in the chat. And while I present, you're more than welcome to try on your own account simultaneously or just take a few notes. We'll also send you a recording of this webinar within the next few days, and it will also be available on demand. So don't worry if you can't stay throughout the whole webinar, or if there's something that you missed, you will have it available for you. And if you have any unanswered question, please don't hesitate to contact us as well via info@labstep.com or our in-app chats. So just to introduce myself, my name is Anoä. I'm in charge of writing articles in our help center, the customer support, and our webinar series. So today I will walk you through how to get started with the inventory module. You'll learn the difference between resource categories, resources, and items, but also how to use resource and item templates. So I will run through all of this with examples using coffee ingredients, but I will also discuss how the content relates to other users of Labstep that were given as examples by our customers. So the webinar itself will last about 25 minutes. So we can then leave the 5 minutes at the end for the questions. And as mentioned at the beginning, you can use the chat at any time for questions and Eloise will answer you. Okay, so let's get started and dive into the inventory module. Okay, so depending on how much experience you have with Labstep, you might have already had a look at the inventory module and notice how great it is to monitor stock, especially if you're a lab manager and you want more granular tracking of what gets used and when. And so you might also have noticed that the inventory module is comprised of 3 levels. So you have your resource category, your resources, and then items. The overall inventory structure is quite flexible and can fit around the way that you want to manage your inventory. So for resource category, so what are they? So resource categories are basically, they group multiple resources, and so they can be named like raw coffee beans like I have here, or milk. And then some examples that we get from users are cell line, consumables, chemicals, sample databases, plasmids, etc., etc. And then each category usually has between 30 and 40 resources max. So this is what a resource category looks like. So within your resource category, you have your resources, and basically resources are at the core of your inventory. They can be the product that you either wish to use or are currently using in your research, such as acetone or hydrochloric acid. So here we have Vietnamese Robusta and Ethiopian Arabica. So these resources can be attached to your protocols and experiments. And as you can see, there are some extra informations here. These are metadata fields. So they're used to store data and information that are the same each time or vary slightly each time you order a resource. So you can have metadata fields at the resource and item levels. So at the item level, it is useful to record as much data as possible to differentiate and trace back any faulty items if something doesn't work. The example that we mostly get is sometimes when you get contaminated cells. So if we just have a look into this resource, okay. So resource items are always associated with a resource, and they can be linked to your experiments where you can deduct the amount used while running your protocol. So items are used to describe your batches, lots, and aliquots, such as batch 1 or bag 1 or bottle 1. You can have multiple items related to one resource. Okay, so now that we know the difference between category, resource, and item, let's build a new category together. So we click here. And let's call this new category sugar. Okay, so this category will group all of our different types of sugar that we have with a few more important data that we need to store. So the best way to do that is to set up a template for this category. And so once we'll have this set up, and when we'll be importing our resources, it will have our custom metadata fields with all the information that we want to track automatically added. So add many. Okay, and for structure, this will be using the chemistry tools. Okay, so this is what our resource template looks like. And you can basically add as many metadata fields as you want. And you can even set up default values to help you fill out all of the metadata fields that you have. Okay, and now let's set up our item template. So for this one, we'll just keep it simple and add date opened and expiry dates. So we just select the field type, date, and you can even be more granular and add date and time. Okay, now let's import some resource. Okay, so when you're importing some resources, you can either do it by uploading a spreadsheet or by copy pasting from a spreadsheet directly onto the Labstep spreadsheet. So let's do this, perfect. So all you need to do is first have a name column so that it can match to the resource name. And then you can also have a column for items in stock. And what will happen is that it will automatically add the specified number of items to your resource. And then once again, you can add more metadata fields if needed. And then these fields will align with what was set up previously. And all of this will contribute to the Labstep way as it will promote data consistency by using your templates. Okay, now let's import our resources. Okay, so basically it will look like this with your category set up, your resources, your metadata fields, and then the number of available items. So don't be alarmed if you don't see anything just yet after you've imported your resources. It usually takes a little bit of time for the import to finalize, especially depending on how many resources you are importing. So another way to add resources to inventory is either by clicking here, which will open up the resource page, and then you'll be able to add all of the metadata fields and customize the page as you wish. Or you can also click here and then click on import, and it will open up the Labstep spreadsheet, just like we saw, where you'll be also able to upload your own spreadsheets. Okay, so let's see if the import is finished. Perfect. Okay, so we now have all of our resources that we've just imported, and you can see that you have also some available items here. So let's check out cane sugar. And so this is what your resource page will look like after the import. So it looks a little bit empty. We're missing a couple of things. So we already have our preset information, brand, whether this sugar is organic or not. So now let's add the structure. So this opens the chemistry tool. So let's add the glucose molecule. So this, and we've basically searched for glucose through the PubChem database, and by selecting it, it just automatically added the molecule, and I didn't have to draw anything, and it just took a couple of seconds. So if I just scroll down, I have some extra metadata that are pulled from PubChem, like molecular weight to molecular formula as well, and in just only a few seconds. Okay, so let's see how it looks. So this is what it will look like with all of your metadata fields filled up, structure, brand, and so on. And now let's move on to our items. So let's add a couple more. Let's code them differently. So let's change the name of our first item as well. Nice, so we have bag 1, bag 2, and bag 3. Okay, now let's set the location. And let's set the amount remaining as well. And there you go. So this is what it looks like when you've set up your location, your amount, and you've renamed your items as well to be able to differentiate them. So yeah, so only items will have features associated with tangible items such as QR codes, amount, and locations. So these are really helpful when you're conducting stock checks, but also to help you with experiment troubleshooting and keeping accurate records. So like I showed you earlier, just like for resources, you can also set up templates for your items. And specify as well the metadata fields. So here we have date open and expiry dates. So let's say date open is today and expiry date sometime in April, 23rd April. You can also set up alert thresholds that will notify you when you're running out of a specific item. And so this is available at a resource level where you will get a notification when you're left with a specific number of items. And basically alert thresholds are useful for order management, as you'll be able to know when it is time to order a new item for a resource before you actually run out. Okay, so now that we've set up our inventory with some resources and items, it's important to know the different ways of searching through it to quickly find what we need, especially if you have loads of resources and loads of items and you need to get to what you need really quickly. So to do that, you can use the filter feature and filter by deleted resource or items. And by doing that, you can also later on restore your resource or item. You can also filter by the day created, by the number of available items, by whom it was created by, whom it was assigned to, by tags, and chemical structure, which is why it's also important to add that structure metadata field. Is you can just use the filter by chemical structure, draw the structure, and it will pull out this exact resource with that structure. Okay, so all of these contribute to the Labstep way, where we want to make your life easier by offering you a flexible tool that supports different functions and makes everything as repeatable as possible. Whether you're a lab manager or still a student, we always keep you and your needs in mind. So to summarize, your inventory is comprised of 3 levels: resource categories, which group your resources, which represent your products used, and items, which describe your batches, lots, and aliquots. So to efficiently get started with the inventory module, you want to add your resources, and to do so, you can either directly upload a spreadsheet containing, the name of your resource and such, or just, copy paste from a spreadsheet to the Labstep spreadsheet. And as an option, you can also add the number of items in stock. And for any additional crucial information, you can also add metadata fields. And to add these quickly, you can set up templates at the resource level and the item levels for more granularity. Okay, so now let's see how this is applied to protocols and experiments. So if you were with us during our previous webinar, we showed you how to create and set up both protocols and experiments and add inventory fields to have some more interactivity in your experiments. So let's see what happens now that we're tracking our inventory. So let's navigate to protocol library. Let's select our protocol. Okay, so this is a very simple protocol to make a perfect simple cup of coffee. So we already have a few interactive elements. So let's change this little bit of text into an inventory field. Okay, the amount used is 5 grams. And then let's specify the resource category. And then the resource, let's select cane sugar for today. And that's it. We've just transformed this little bit of text into an inventory field. We've selected a resource, specified the amount needed, and as you can see, this milk, coffee beans are also referenced later on. So let's do this for this one as well. There we go. So these inventory fields are referenced later on. They're not different inventory pieces. They're one instance. So this inventory field is the same one as this one. Okay, so now let's see how this translates when we run the protocol in our experiment. So let's go into experiments. Let's create a new experiment from a template. Okay, now let's add our protocol. Nice, okay. So now that we have our protocol, we have our different ingredients. Let's open our sugar. And now let's specify the item. We'll use bag number 3. We want to make sure it's correct category, correct resource as well. And now let's click on deduct amount used. So now if we have a look at the amount remaining, we can see that what has been used during the experiment, during the run of this protocol, was directly deducted from the inventory in just a simple click. There was no need to go back and forth. Everything is connected. So now let's just go through this protocol and take a few steps. Use the kettle, stir the milk, leave and sit and cool for 2 minutes. Cool, that's complete. Okay, and now that we're back to our experiment entry, let's drag and drop some inventory fields. So here I have ingredients. I just want a nice summary in my experiment entry. So let's click here and drag and drop our ingredients. Sugar, coffee beans, and then milk. Perfect. So with protocols, you get to execute and link your inventory to your research. And with experiments, they enable you to just apply your inventory to your scientific workflow, and all of this seamlessly. Okay, so you now know how to add inventory fields to your protocol, and you also know how to link the amount used of an item during an experiment to your inventory. All of these steps just contribute to consistent data collection, which we basically made easier than ever. So there we go. So now let's just go over all of the things we've seen today, have a little webinar recap, summarize the topics that we've seen, and then we'll go into our Q&A. All right, so today we've seen the inventory structure. So we know that there are 3 levels to inventory structure. So first, the resource category, which basically groups multiple resources like cell line, and is usually 30 to 40 resources maximum per category. And then, so resource, so that's the product that you want to use, like acetone. And then your items, which are described by your specific batch, sample, or aliquot that are always associated to a resource, like bottle 1, carton 1, or bag 1. And then we've seen how to apply that inventory and how it looks like in your protocol or experiment. And so you know that you can add inventory fields when writing up your protocol and track what is used. And then when you conduct your experiment, you can specify the item and deduct the amount used from your inventory. And then you want to set up templates at the resource and item levels to cut down admin time and increase data consistency. All right, so now let's go into our Q&A. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We'll do our best to answer them.
Lovely, thank you, Anoä. I'll be reading some questions from the chat.
Lovely.
Yeah, to start with, we've got, we can see that you can do track lineage in your using inventory. Can we find some more information out about that?
Yeah, so we'll actually be hosting the 3rd part of the Labstep Way, and where we will be touching on lineage tracking, the device client, and order management. So that will be for next time.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah, question also, second question, would you have some suggestions for plasmids and primers?
You want to take the lead on this one, Eloise?
Yeah. So we have clients that store plasmids and primers in Labstep in different ways. Some people have issues with, they include the plasmid information at the resource level and then can't extract items, often the item export. We have examples that I can show you of how people store this, so I can be in contact with you. I'll record your name after the session too. Cool. Another one from the Q&A. Do you have to always enter the information, or like all of the information you need with each resource in your protocol, or can you kind of vary the levels of detail?
I'm not sure.
Okay, no, I understand that one.
Okay.
So when you are entering inventory into your protocol, you can specify all of that information that Anoä showed you. So your resource category, your resource, and also the amount, or you can leave it blank and leave that whole field empty, so that if you get to that experiment and want to kind of pick your resource there and then, you can. So for example, if from different sample databases from different categories. So it's flexible in that respect, that you could just create a field and have someone fill that out when they execute, rather than have that information presented. That's it for the questions, but if anyone else wants to put one in the next minute or so, we can hold on. Cool.
Yeah, we'll stay a couple extra minutes as well for any other questions. But basically, if you're wondering what to do next after this webinar, what we recommend you to do is obviously, apply what you've learned, share all of this information with your collaborators, rewatch the webinar as well. It will be available on demand. And obviously sign up to our next webinar. And like I said, it will be on a more advanced side of the inventory module, and we'll just dive deeper into the more advanced knowledge, so like lineage tracking, device client, and order management.
Lovely. So yeah, we had a couple more questions if you're happy to stay on, Anoä.
Yeah, of course.
The max number of resource categories, are they the same whether you have the paid or free version? I can answer that one. Yes, they are the same. You can add as many resources as you like on the paid and free version too. Which session will you be covering resource ordering? So that'll be the next session. So as Anoä mentioned, we'll be doing track lineage, linking your devices to your inventory, sharing inventory between workspaces, item export, and then moving on to that resource ordering piece. How would you add sublocations by bulk? You could do this through the import resources way that no, you would do it through your item import. So Anoä showed you how to add multiple items. You could attach a location through that, your sublocation in bulk too. You separate it using the greater than sign, so you can build resource pathways through there. It's on the help center if you search for that too. Last one, how can we add the purity % for product synthesized? You can have that as a metadata field as an item level. So you can specify that and enter that data when you create that sample. I think this comes into also, you'll be able to see this when we do track lineage. You can kind of go into that and see parent and child relationships, and also you can update your metadata fields that you need to when you create that item. Great. I think, we've hit half past.
That's all the time we have for today. So thanks so much for joining us for our second webinar and submitting all of your questions. So like I told you guys earlier, please sign up for our next webinar. This will be next month, and if you have any other questions and you will actually speak to us further, please don't hesitate to contact us at info@labstep.com. And this webinar will be available on demand in our help center very, very soon. So please keep an eye out. And we hope to see you next time. And bye.